Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Mayor of Kingstown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of, well, not immediately, but in the aftermath of the last episode. We open with the ending of Mitch's funeral, and the only one there is Mike, because still trying to process and figure out what he's going to do in the grand scheme of things. They kind of have the after effects, because I think it's such an interesting thing. Like, obviously, there's the little thing at the end. Well, I mean, not at the end, but his mom is there, Kyle's wife, obviously, but it's like at the end of it, they're like, we don't see Mike and his mom talk. It doesn't mean they didn't talk, but I think it's such an interesting thing that they have no, other than that, they're not in range of each other in the entire episode. So, I thought it was interesting, one of the cops was, obviously they're, joking and telling a story, and they're kind of laughing, and everyone's kind of looking at them like, why are you laughing? This isn't a time for that. But it's right, there was an interesting conversation about these type of things on where you kind of mourn somebody. It's kind of what you do that on your own, because it's what are all these people doing? These people are worried about they're talking about their mortgage rate and stuff like that. It's when you're mourning about someone, the real place to do it is kind of when you're on your own. That's when a lot of that stuff kind of happens. But Mike is talking to Ed about the whole situation, about Tim's nephew Sam, about that whole situation with Bunny. It's all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this. To kind of appease this situation. They end up doing something Mitch wouldn't do, but it's it's not a risk. It's literally the only move we have to make, because Bunny's not too happy about how things were handled, but also because now he gives Mike the rundown of what happens, because it's hey, maybe what Sam has said is the truth. I mean, to be fair, Sam got pretty busted up, so maybe there's some validity to it. Some of it, but obviously, the rest of it, it's we as the audience know it's complete horseshit that he concocted that whole situation, because, Home Dude was threatening to turn him in about the letter and stuff like that. So, but essentially, Mike wanted to have stuff moved around so that the Crips weren't in a position that they would have the run of the court. He basically shifted it over so that the Bloods are the one that run that. Obviously, Bunny wasn't too happy about that later on, and he calls up, he said, yo, sorry about your brother, what the fuck you trying to run on me? And I love that, as he left, Mike was just oh, cool. Hey, guys, if anyone's able to break into that safe, I'm going to come to your kitchens and I'm going to kill you there. So, it looks good so far. And they're looking at each other wait, is he serious about that? Rolls up, it's stun grenades, essentially, is what he used, to disorientate everybody. And he rolls up on Bunny, and Bunny's what you doing, man? No, it's cool. I just wanted to have a conversation. He's really? Give me the letter. He's this is going to end. Your boy, picked the wrong kid. It's fine. It's just he ended up picking the wrong kid, and at the end of the day, he lost. So we're going to leave it at this. You're going to give me the letter. He's it's over there. He's wait, you had it the entire time? It's yeah. I love that Bunny's looking at him why you up here straight tripping, homie? Why are you doing this? It's no, we could have, I'm talking big shit, but I'm it was fine. This is how we do business. And then just oh, cool. Got the letter, and he bounces. And he's yo, we're supposed to be friends. It's basically, oh, you got to choose a side between us and them. It's oh, and we're friends. He's yeah, they're a lot less friendly than us. And he's I guess they're no friends at all, right? So he bounces, because I skipped over it, but he did try to set fire to the office. So in particular, the blood stains in the carpet. It's the guy's what the fuck are you doing, Mike? He's what, how else are you supposed to get blood stains on the carpet? A carpet, a steam cleaner or something? Come on, there's easier solutions, but it's it's all, he's not thinking straight. He's being very self-destructive, because everyone's are you okay? Because even Kyle's you don't even have to be here. You don't have to take over the operation. He's there's loose ends that need to be tied up, because he hasn't fully decided that he's going to take over the, whole mayorship. But the fact is that at the end of the day, it's there's still loose ends that need to be taken care of. And Kyle also brings up that, it's you have nothing. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't have any kids. You can up and bounce. You can leave. There's nothing holding you back. Don't let weeks turn into years, because, once again, all we have is this life, especially because he was talking to his wife, because he's I hope you're not going to tell me. And she's no, I'm not going to say anything except, let's not waste any time between us, because what happened to Mitch can come. We saw how fast it came from Mitch. Like, it could come from, because he was like, I hope you're not going to tell me like you're worried about like what happened. She's like, yes, I know what happened to Mitch could happen to you because you are kind of in the mix of all of this, but I'm not going to chastise you about it. I'm not going to really talk about it. All I'm going to say is, let's not waste time between us. Let's always like keep us good, because, you know, and enjoy that time, because life can creep up on you at any moment and you can get God. So it's like, you know, so kind of solidifying where they are and things. There was a lady, a daughter that came on behalf of her mom to Mike because she wanted help with her brother's circumstances, but he's locked up. He's about to be executed. And for Mike, is like, there's nothing I can do for your brother. Like, the fact is, there are people on him. It's just like, what the circumstances are, his situation being what it is, it's like, there's nothing I can do for you. Like, all you can do is prepare for it. And so she's asking, like, because she's like, right, there's like a $500 like for you to give me advice, more than that for you to get involved. But she's like, I don't know how much more. And she's like, right, like, I can't get involved. There's nothing I can do for your brother. Like, it is going to be what it is. Like, there's no like saving or preparing your brother. Like, it is what it is. And so for her, it's like, can you at least give me advice? And it's just like, essentially he was saying like, you will survive this. You will, like, it's going to suck ass, but like, you are going to make it through this somehow. And she's like, can you be there? And he offers to be there. I'm curious, like, would Mitch normally do that? Because fostering relationships with people across these different backgrounds and circumstances, and he's there, like, you know, he never met her brother, or you know, but he's there trying to support their, I guess, because after the recent situation with Mitch, maybe something in that like pulled on some heartstrings for him is why he showed up. But even a guy like, it's like, oh, like, it was like his niece that ended up, because what happened is home dude sprayed up a bus stop and a child was killed. And so both families are there, like the his mom and his sister, as well as the family of the child that died. And so obviously, you know, he was kind of, you know, he gets brought in, and I think he throws up on himself because I think he's so nervous and he's so scared. And I've never seen one in real life. And I've never really watched many shows that have ever, or movies, not to my recollection, that have ever really gone that in depth in it, like laying down the rules of like, hey, when you're here, you can only whisper. If you want to leave, you need to raise your hand, like no outbursts and stuff like that, because like obviously some of this stuff could be a penalty of like 6 months in prison and like $1,000 fine. So, but basically he's sitting with the family and he's whispering to the daughter like what to tell their mom and like translate it. So that she can like process what's going on, be there for them every step of the way, so she can have someone to talk to and understand. But the son, you know, calls out to his mom and kind of lets her know like it's going to be okay. And to the family, he's like, he's like, I'm sorry, you know. And so he's like, fuck it, just kill me. And he gets last rites. And he's, you know, it's like, right, he's like, that the person is looking to the phone just in case there's a stay of execution from the governor, but they're like, don't tell your mom that, because if so, like, it's like, cause she'll be looking to that being like, oh, could there be some last hope? It's like, don't even let your mom know there could be a way, because there is no way out of this for him, and you don't want to give her any false hope at the end. So she has to bear the responsibility of knowing and hearing this while also making sure she's able to protect her mom from it. So that's a heavy burden all on its own. It's like, you got to process and you got to deal with all of this so that you can make sure and let your mom know, so you can help her, be there for her, support her through this. But also you got to be the one that carry a lot of the weight. Like, she's carrying her own weight, sure, but you got to carry enough for not only her, but yourself. Because it's at one point he's like, tell her to look down. And she does, and he's just like, tell her like it's painless. He's just asleep. There's no pain. And that's not the case. It is brutal. I didn't know, like, if he like peed himself, because it's like, you know, it's that thing of like people saying like when you die, like you void your bowels and stuff like that. So, but it's just, it wasn't like it was painless. It's like, no, like he was shaking and he was convulsing. And it's like, yeah, like, it's like, right, focus on remembering the good. Don't focus on seeing your son, like, he's already gone, like, remember, focus on the good. And she's looking down, but the daughter is looking straight ahead. Like, she takes it so her mom doesn't have to, because she's like, I have to be the one to see this through so that I can see this. I have to carry this with me, but I will survive. I will find a way through. And even the other dude from the other family being like, yo, Mike, why aren't you a woman? He's like, how can you prepare someone for that? Like, it's one thing knowing what's going to happen, but it doesn't change actually seeing it. So But like I said, I'm curious, like, would Mitch have done that for that family, or was it just because of Mike's current circumstances, having lost Mitch, that put him in that position? I don't know. I guess because of his position of, like, right, trying to be there for everyone, maybe that it still falls under that purview. We also find out that Mitch was I thought it was interesting. We saw, like, when he rolled up on Bunny, people were watching him. It was like, oh, those must be the feds or something. They roll up on him and it's like, hey, can we talk to you? Did you know you? It's like, oh, so your brother was informant. Not only was he informant, you knew he was informant. But it's like, I guess Mitch was very open about that. They're like, oh, do you know Bunny? And it's like, oh, yeah. You know, because they called Bunny by his real name. And he's like, oh, Bunny? Yeah. He sits out in the front yard and literally sells over. Like, if you want to arrest him, go right ahead. So they want him to be, they want, Mike to be an informant, like Mitch. He's like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. Because it's like, yeah, you're coming to me about this whole Vera and Bert. It's like, no, you got all this from, like, the papers. Like, why are you asking me questions? Like, let's cut the bullshit. This is what you're really here for. So they need him to be an informant. But he's like, I'm not going to wear a wire. I'm not going to go undercover. Like, basically, what goes on here in this office stays here. So basically what I do as a mayor, what I do as my business is my business. It's not yours, but I will, anytime, like, you need some information from me, you come to me. We do things basically on my terms, and this is how it works. And they're like, all right. And they sign off on it. So I was wondering why the actress who plays one of the agents, I was like, why does she look so familiar? I think she was in season 2 of, I'm blanking on her character's name. She had a lot of interactions with Jackie, Kevin Bacon's character, in City on a Hill, but I'm like, I think that's the same actress. Wasn't she like the new DA or something? It's been a little while now, so I'm blanking on it. I think her name was Karen something. I'm blanking on her last name. I believe her name was Karen, but I believe that's the same actress, but I could be 100% mistaken. I kept looking at her being like, I recognize her, I just couldn't place where. So that's interesting. But obviously, you know, even Rebecca, who's kind of like the receptionist, being like, oh, like, so are we continue to business? It's like, yeah, so here's our first check, so for the time being, so we'll see kind of where things go from there. I also love, like, his cop buddy brings him in and it's like, cool, we need you to do this for us. I'll bring the caddy. And so he's speeding down the road, like, they're supposed to be, like, the guy that's, like, the main cook or whatever for some drugs, and he's just like, I don't see the guy, I hit a light, all right, 30 seconds, 20. He's like, he's gonna be there. And then, like, he's like, I don't see the guy, and rams into her. And it's like, hey, it's a good bust. Hey, like, the drugs, the vials and everything bust out the back. Oh, we're getting him. It's like, yeah, until he sues me. It's like, nah, this is a good bust, Mike. It's a good bust. I'm like, I love how you used him like that, because he was like 24th, you wrong address, asshole. He's like, come on, it's fine, it worked out. So type of situations Mike's gonna find himself in from time to time. It's like, we scratch each other's back type of thing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But we also got a little bit on the Milo side of things. We actually see Milo. So I guess I knew Bunny would be getting a little bit more. I didn't know how much of Milo was going to be. Because I've seen that actor and stuff. I know he's in Game of Thrones. He's also in another recent show. It's on AMC Plus. I haven't watched it yet. I need to set something sometime. Because I don't even... Like, I'm assuming it's going to come to regular AMC at some point in time. But we'll see. But it's called a show called Ken. I know he's in that as well. It's got Charlie Cox, Daredevil himself, in it. Yeah, I think that's a more recent thing, but, like, I know he was in Game of Thrones. I think his character was Littlefinger. This is coming from someone who's never watched Game of Thrones. I just seen bits and pieces and know some stuff, but I think he was Littlefinger. But yeah, I think that's because we see a name in the opening credits, but you don't see his, and I guess that's why they were like, if you recognize him, you recognize him, maybe they did it on purpose because they wanted the reveal to be what it was. But Milo's dude comes to him and it's like, cool, like he said, don't threaten him again. It's like, I'm sure. He's like, yeah, like the thing, he's like, I'm not worried about it. But Milo was like, no, he's like he's different from his brother. He's actually more like us. Once again, he's on that side of things, like he was more on the criminal side of things anyway. So he leans more towards their direction than his brother did. But it's like, right. It's like, where's the money? It's in, like, police lockup and stuff like that. So I guess to kind of foster and kind of keep Mike under his thumb, he's sending out for someone else. He's like, we need someone like a Vera. It's like, where's Iris in New York? Bring her back here. So it doesn't seem like he's too heartbroken about the Vera thing, like whether she was like a means to an end or maybe he had time to process his grief and just like, yeah, it is what it is. It doesn't seem like he's just kind of moving along. Because we did kind of get perspective on that when the cops rolled up of like, right, Milo got arrested for armed robbery, but Mitch is the one that, like, even to play it, like, he's the one that kind of brokered the deal so that he could keep some of his money hidden away, and that's the 200,000 that the police now have. But it's like, yeah, he could get it in case he got out of prison, but it's like he's serving life, and it's like, yeah. So I'm curious to see. I'm assuming like Milo's going to be like not necessarily the main antagonist, but like a main recurring thing, just like Bunny is. I guess something along those lines and lanes. It's definitely gonna be interesting to see where that goes, especially what role because like Iris is meant to be like I guess it's like she's the type of girl that, or at least that's how you get someone like Mike under your thumb. So I guess it's gonna be like happenstance. Oh, I happen to bump into you. Like, yeah, it's probably meant to be a situation like that, and make him fall for you, and you keep him on a tight leash, and you get whatever info Milo needs you to get from him, like would a honey trap be the right word for that circumstances? I guess like something of that name. So something of that vein. So we'll have to wait and see on that front. But obviously there's the whole thing with the bear too. I'm like, I don't get this obsession with the bear and everything. And so he talks to the guy and it's like, you want something to like feed the bear and not kill it? He's like, yeah. Like he's like, are you sure? It's like, it's like this thing is like the size of a dog until it eats you keep feeding it a couple months and it gets bigger and it realizes your house is your cabin's a place to get some food. But I hope Mama Bear don't roll through. But it's like, yeah, like if it does get too much of an issue, like, will a pistol work? What kind of caliber? It's like, nah. It's like, but this bow and arrow, will it work? And he shows him the picture and he's like, okay, cool. That'll work out. So, it's like, what kind of food are they interested in? He's like, fries, grease, particularly bacon grease. They like that. They're obviously attracted to marshmallow too, so he got a whole bunch of bacon grease and like 2 pounds of like bags of like 40-pound bags of fries, 2 of them, and he dumps them out. And I love that little raccoon coming over and he's shooting an arrow, being like, which I'm also like, I didn't even think, I'm such an idiot, I didn't even think about it at the time. It's like, did they put that in his hands? Like, I know it's just like, it's hunting, so still, come on. Like, Hawkeye, the show is literally right around the corner. I don't know if they planned that out like that. It's kind of crazy to be like, yeah, you're the lead of 2 different shows running simultaneously, almost simultaneously. So I just find that interesting. I mean, it's across 2 different platforms, Paramount Plus and then also like Disney Plus, but still. I think that's interesting. But it's like, I didn't even think about it it didn't even cross my mind until I'm just sitting here. I was like, oh yeah, a bow and arrow in his hands. Jesus, yeah. Also, like, raccoons are adorable. Just like, they look like little bandits, But it's like, yeah, get away, that's not yours. Bear rolled through and he ate his food, which you see Mike being so happy about it. I'm like, it's not a pet, Mike. What do you, okay, do it. That bear's going to die. Something's going to go wrong and that bear's going to die. Either someone's going to kill it and Mike's going to be super upset. I get the feeling like that's what it's going to be. It's like anytime, that bear is cute, scary, but cute. I'm saying that from the perspective of this is a TV show and I can appreciate it as like the cute creature that it is, but also realizing it's a creature that could rip me apart, maul me, and eat me. So, but I do love that he does pay like Bunny back by like bringing him some chairs. It's like, yo, why don't y'all ever get me no chairs? One of these guys like, I don't know. It's like, go get us something to drink. And him and Mike have like this real, like, that is the thing of like, this is I guess the closest thing to a friendship, because it was also like, I think he said it to Rebecca. He was like, what else would I do? Like, what else am I going to do? Like, this is all I have. I have nothing outside of this, so might as well go all in for it. But what I thought was interesting was like the kind of like life talk that him and Bunny had, because he told him, it's like, yeah, that scorpion? Yeah, I was there at his execution. Like, why were you there? He's like, that's a long story, but Bunny talks about like the perspective he has on life. He's kind of like, essentially he's saying like, I've like, people like will worry about like, oh, like replacing the Trans Am of their vehicle, or like, oh, whose house are we going to, grandma's or so-and-so's house for Christmas? He was like, I've never celebrated Christmas in my entire life. Basically saying like, what life is now is kind of what he expected. It's like, this is all you know, and like, you don't try to pretend otherwise. It's like, this is a life I knew I was going to be in. This is, he's like, I'm 37 years old, but he also recognizes like, he even tells Mike, it's like, you're just as much a part of this life as us. Like, you're just as much at the bottom of the barrel, the situation of like, you could like catch it at any point in time. He's like, I'm 37, but he's like, he knows the dangers of this life of like, yeah, it can catch you at any moment, that this type of life can only end one way. And for Mike, it's going, and it's the reality of the situation. It's like, hell, it caught up to your brother. So who's to say you're going to be any different? But still, he's here regardless. And, Mike talked about, the cooking school again. He had talked a little bit about with Kyle before about like cooking outside. And he was like, oh yeah, like, Bunny's like, yeah, I know my grandma used to do it. He's like, I remember being 9. She made biscuits, gravy. And it's like, oh yeah, she teach you? He's like, nah. But he's like, but I remember. And it's like how she did this and that. I guess it's like, it's that interesting, like, the grass is always greener thing. Not really in this particular case, but it's like looking at a life that it's like, yeah, we can dream about that life, but being who we are, it's too much ingrained in us. It's ingrained in where we grew up. This place is too much a part of who we are. There ain't no getting away with it. Ain't no getting away from it. It's too in your DNA. It's too in mind that this is a life we're going to lead, and it can only lead one way, but we're going to keep going down that road. Because it's the only way this was always going to play out for us in the line of work we're in, and the way it's going, how this line of work ends for us. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting element, that I guess it's like there is some kinship that there is some kind of friends. Like you do find like friends in oddest places, because like, even Buddy was like, aren't we friends? But I guess it's like, no, like I guess it isn't. I chalked it up like, oh, these aren't your friends. These are just mutual relationships. But it's like, maybe with Bunny, there might be an actual friendship that like for him, it's like, yeah, you might be a friend because he might be the only person like Mike could really talk to and open up about a lot of that stuff. And like they have that. They have, like, because I think he has more in common with Bunny than he probably does, like, his own brothers. Either one, Mitch or Kyle, Especially considering Kyle being on the, like, far end of the other end of the spectrum, being a cop and everything. Then, Mike, who's kind of in this in-between lane, who still operates like a criminal, so. Yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff. I'm really curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. The continued relationship with his mom, because obviously she isn't co-signing in this. She knows, like, she wanted him to leave, but he's not leaving. He's actually doubling down and picking up. Once again, it is for the purpose of, he initially said, like, oh, until loose ends are tied up, and now it's like, he said, like, what else would I do? So it's like, he might be like, this could be him solidifying, like, nah, I'm staying here. I'm gonna do this, and what the end result will be, well, we'll have to wait and see, but really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.